I'd like to invite you all on a journey with me. If it feels comfortable doing so, close your eyes. Imagine a world where we can consume the news on a plethora of devices. We can read news any time of the day or night. We'll read a headline, maybe a paragraph or two, and then share it with a network of like-minded individuals at the speed of light. Then forget about it and move on with our day. Now, open your eyes. This is our reality. This is our current news consumption ecosystem. It's 2019. We can book travel, order food, even transportation on an app. We can face chat with people from across the globe. We have autonomous buildings and self-driving cars. We have all the information at the world at our fingertips. Yet, why is it so tricky to get reliable facts from the news sources we consume? I've been working in communications for 9 years. And in that time, I owned my own communication practice, and now I work for a global PR firm where I help my clients understand news media and position themselves within it. In my spare time, I work with the young leaders of tomorrow and see how they too work with news media outlets. Now, I've noticed one key thing that is the same for both my clients and the young leaders that I work with. Most of us are developing fake news fatigue. We are tired of hearing about fake news and tired of constantly playing the role of the lie detector. So this got me thinking, how did it come to be? What has shaped our reality? So I decided to do some research, read as much as I could on the subject. And I read that there are 3 main reasons that have shaped our current reality. They are our vantage point, the power of repetition, and the immediacy of the internet. Let's start with our vantage point. Everyone in this room has a vantage point, a unique point of view with which you see and navigate through the world. Psychologists have studied biases. Now, a bias is something that helps you seek out certain information that confirms your beliefs and rejects whatever contradicts it. A quick Google search will show you that there are many types of biases. An example can be a cognitive bias. If you believe that pipelines, for example, pose a threat to our environment, you will be more receptive to news stories that talk about the negative effects of oil. Another example can be a social bias. We humans are social beings. That means we'll be more receptive to stories that play on the fiber of our identity, whether it be our gender, our origin, or our religious or political affiliations. These biases make us more receptive to certain types of news stories. Now, biases are not all bad. Researchers at MIT have explained how they've actually allowed us to survive since prehistoric times by being able to rely on our intuition rather than taking the time to think critically. Our ancestors were able to reflect more quickly in times of danger. But now, in 2019, where we have the world's information at our fingertips and we can access it instantly, we need to take the time to reflect, think critically, and fact-check before sharing information. Now, I get it. We consume a lot of information in a day, and fact-checking every little thing might seem like a daunting task. But by sharing misinformation without checking it, especially on social media, could have rather scary consequences. Last year in India, 20 people died after misinformation and rumors of kidnapping spread over WhatsApp. People will read something, find it interesting, share it, and move on. What might seem rather innocent can have rather tragic ripple effects. Speaking of ripple effects, let's talk about the power of repetition. Marketing and communication scholars have long studied the power of repetition. Essentially, what you need to know is the more something is repeated, the more it becomes true. Researchers at the University of Regina have pushed this further and have explained that the more something is repeated, the more it becomes true because it is familiar. Think about this next time you're reading a news story. Is it true because of the facts, or is it true because you might have heard it somewhere? This also becomes tricky because there are other elements that feed into this power of repetition. One of them are algorithms. Algorithms determine the content you see based on the cookies of the websites that you browse. What this means is the more fake news you consume, the more of it you will see. Now, we can't talk about the power of repetition without talking about social media. Social media creates echo chambers that inhibits the user's ability to get diverse facts and diverse sides of the news. If you only spend time or only read news from people who are like-minded, or news sources that support your point of view, think about how this will shape your worldview. We need a feedback mechanism, or else we risk falling into polarization or overconfidence. Now, with the rise of social media came the rise of citizen journalists. And this leads me directly into the last point, the immediacy of the internet. Now, a citizen journalist is anyone with a cell phone connection and a smart device. It doesn't matter if you have facts. It doesn't matter if you are right. If you see something and you report it first, you can get the most views and the most clicks. Too many of us are not stopping to think about accuracy, but instead thinking about numbers. This becomes tricky because it is up to us to decipher between opinions and facts. Another thing that plays into the immediacy of the internet are the role of journalists. With less people willing to pay for news media, it is becoming more tricky for journalists to perform their job both acutely and accurately. The immediacy of the internet has caused a rather unfortunate dichotomy, whereas on one hand, news outlets are bound by journalistic integrity, where journalists must research and fact-check and ensure that what they publish is true. But on the other hand, the immediacy of the internet has got them also focusing on garnering clicks and views and ads rather than solely focusing on producing high-quality content. So now that we have a general understanding of our vantage points, the power of repetition, and the immediacy of the internet, how do we work past them? Well, it's important to say that we can never rid ourselves of our vantage point or strip ourselves completely of our biases, but we can be aware of them when navigating our news ecosystem. Another thing I would like you to reflect upon is your environment. Do you surround yourself with people, or do you read posts from people who have differing opinions than you? Exposing oneself to contrary opinions allows us to develop our intellectual humility. That is to say, the ability to recognize the limits of our knowledge when we made a mistake or when we learned something new. When navigating the news cycle in our 21st century, we need to be empowered ambassadors of truth. Critical thinkers in a time where fake news, propaganda, and misinformation are shared just as often as the truth. Here's a tool that I created and that I'm excited to share with you all to help navigate our news ecosystem. It is the acronym FAKE, F-A-K-E. F are for facts. What are they? Who is presenting them? And what representation are they providing? A is appearance. What are you reading? Is it satire? Is it sponsored content? Or is it an actual news story? K, is it kind? Negative stories spread like wildfire, and most fake news stories are not kind. E is for everyone. Does everyone need to see this story? Or, by sharing it, are you simply contributing to the algorithms further spreading fake news? I'd like to invite you all to go back to the visualization exercise we did at the very beginning. What kind of news consumption ecosystem would you like to contribute to? I would like to see one where a healthy skepticism is upheld, not only in our school curriculums, but at the dinner table or even at work. I would like you all to feel empowered to use the FAKE acronym, to share it with your friends. I hope it motivates you to be a critical thinker in this time and in this news ecosystem. We need to be conscious of our biases, aware of the power of repetition, and mindful of the immediacy of the internet. We need to understand news media, make informed choices, and resist peer pressure as we continue to create our worldview. Thank you.